Hello, Frank. How are you?
Hello
I'm just
there.
sorting out your lower thirds there.
Yes.
I'll just switch to
Um,
me while you do that for a second.
well, we were chatting away. Excuse me. We were chatting away, and I suddenly went, "Why don't we do this? Why don't we just go live? This is interesting."
Well,
Um,
that's right. We're talking about something which may be of general interest to people, and although it's a pre-talk, perhaps it might be worth mentioning that we meet a few minutes before we go live. I know some people think we spend all week talking and planning this, which is nice. I mean, that's kind of a compliment in a way. But what we do is we just 5 minutes before we start, we say, "What should we
yeah,
talk about?"
yeah.
And then we do. So,
I
yeah,
mean, anybody watching this, that is, okay, a little bit exaggerated there because it was about half an hour ago.
yeah.
We said, well, what are we going to talk about? But literally, there is no planning for these calls. Some of you may not be surprised, but for those people who go, oh, you must put a lot of work into this. No, we don't. We have a think all the time, but Amin and I don't really talk other than during these calls, do we? I mean, this is it. This is our weekly conversation,
Yeah,
and it's alive to the world. Whoever's interested.
it's very funny actually, because I know one or two people have said, "Well, you seem to be very comfortable with each other's company. You must be good friends." We don't even know each other really. In truth, we've
No,
never
that's
met.
right. No.
We've spoken online at various times, and then we talk for an hour here once a week. But it's not really, you know. But of course, the virtual world, that's how it is now. So you can do this. Anybody can do this.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah. I mean, you just click with somebody, don't you? If you were somebody else, I might be, oh, I don't like this, the way this is going. I feel uncomfortable and so on.
Yeah,
But yeah, we just seem to have clicked, don't we? I think we've been
I think
lucky
there needs
in
to
that
be a
respect.
certain degree of compatibility for sure. And fortunately, I know we have enough differences to make it interesting, because it would be awful to be in agreement about everything. It would be
Yeah.
absolutely awful. So
Mm.
there are a few differences as well, which is good. But, I'm using a new headset today. I got a new one, by the way. This is the Turtle Beach PX21,
Mm.
which I think it's so good that I'm getting rid of the big microphone, the big professional microphone I was using, and the big audio interface to go with it. So
Mm.
I'm going to sell those and stick to this. But we'll be talking about microphones a little bit later, won't we? So we'll come on to that a
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
more a
okay. In a
little bit
few
later.
minutes, yeah. Maybe not a bit later. Maybe we'll just get straight into it.
Yeah.
Unless there's something else you want to talk about first, we could go
There is
straight
one
into
thing I
that.
want to show, because we're sort of talking. We're going to be talking about high tech today.
Mm.
And lots of us have various toys and so on, like iPads and what have you. Now, I've talked in the past about lighting. So you can see here the lighting, which I'm getting from the window. But if you have an iPad, there's a free application you can get which lighting makes a big difference to the quality of your images. So if you're doing a webcam or a normal video, I have this thing on here which is called Free Light. Now, if you have a look what happens to my face when I use this iPad, I'm just holding it there, but I could put it on a stand. And then if I take it away, you can see the shadow side. Suddenly it changes.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that great? But it's very flattering, I think. But particularly when it's dark or darker, the difference between no light and the light here isn't that tremendous today. But it can make a big difference. I'm turning it off now. It can make a big difference when you're in a low light situation, because you get very grainy pictures.
Yeah.
So in terms of the quality of the image you're showing people, that can be a lifesaver, and it's something a lot of people have. I mean, don't get an iPad specially, but if you've got one, you may as well use it. You don't have to get that application. That's a free one as it happens, but you can just open up the mail application, which is mainly white background, and even that works. In fact, let me show you very quickly, because sometimes we overdo things. So I've just opened up the mail application now, and that's you can see there there's light, and
What's
if
that
you change
application called?
the application was called Free Light, I believe. Let me check, because Free Light.
Free light. Let's just.
We've got a couple of viewers now, so hello to everybody who's joining us. If you want to
Hello
leave a
there.
comment, please do so, and we'd like to talk to you, respond to your comments live. I think I should say that what we plan to do today is content creation with a few tricks and tips. We're going to talk about content creation, which is a big topic for people. I know we both get lots of questions about how to create content, and one of the frequent things that we both hear is, it seems to take a long time. And the truth is it doesn't. I want to show you something that makes it easy. But, Content creating is as hard as you want.
This is really cool, isn't it? That you're going to,
if it works.
If it works, yeah, on live.
Yeah. Well, shall we do it? Because let's go straight into it, and then if people have questions about it, it might be quite fun.
Yeah. So sorry, that app was called Free. I'm looking for it in the Kindle store, so it's going to be a different.
Yeah, of course.
But so it's a whole load, but there isn't one that's particularly called Free Light. So.
No.
Okay, well,
I'll put links for the iPad one, and I guess you would work on an iPhone as well. I have an iPhone here, which I'm going to show now. I've got something called Dragon NaturallySpeaking, which many people will know I'm a big fan of. But I've got this application, which is free. The application here is free, and it turns the iPhone or an iPad or an iPod Touch into a wireless microphone for Dragon NaturallySpeaking. Dragon is a voice dictation software. All kinds of things you can do with it, including one thing we were talking about, which I'll need to learn how to do properly before we tell people. But anyway, let me just... where's the screen share? They've changed the layout on Google Hangouts, so now I'm looking for where the screen sharing thing is.
Yeah.
So here we go.
I see it, yeah.
Dragon Bar, here we go. So that... in a moment. There we go. So this is the Dragon Bar. And I've shared the wrong thing. I need to share the entire panel. But what I'm going to do is open... This is on my PC. I'm going to open something called the Dragon Pad and then share that screen. And then... Oh, how does that work? No, I'll tell you what. I'll drag it over here. Because you need to be able to see me. So the screen I have to share is going to be...
well, you could share the whole desktop. And
yeah,
then
I think
move
that's
yourself
what I need to do, isn't it, really?
There's a bit of software. I can't think what it's called now. There's an expensive version. There's a free version, and what it will do is it will mix different inputs of your screen. So
I'm gonna. It's not loving me because I'm gonna get feedback with this. So I'm trying.
I think you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'll do. I think people are going to have to kind of trust me, but let me just drag the... if I do this, you won't be able to see me dictate, which is... okay. So kind of what I wanted to show people.
But we'll hear you anyway, and we'll see the output.
Yeah,
so
let me show you the Dragon
that
Pad
should
first
be
of all.
People can look at my pretty face, can't they?
They can.
If they need to focus on anything.
I'll actually show you the Dragon Pad because you'll see what's happening, and then we can deal with it. So I'm going to... turn the microphone on now. And I'm going to make things up, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is create something that will be a blog post. Now, a blog post can be as few as 200 words, or it can be as many as 1,000 words or more, depending on what you want to do. But if you start around the 200 words plus, then you've got a decent-sized blog post. By the time you're up to 400, you've definitely got a good blog post. And a lot of people have trouble with doing that because they find it too difficult to do and takes too long. If you could do it in 5 minutes a day, or let's say 10 minutes, and you did it every day, excuse me, then you would have 30 or 31 blog posts a month, which is 365 blog posts in a year. So just for a few minutes a day, you can create a huge amount of content.
And what you're talking about here is using Dragon Dictate to create your content just by speaking out loud, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely right. And you can
for those people that don't like to write.
Yeah, typing for some people is not so much fun.
Dump your brain, and then once it's there, you just tidy it up a little. Spend a few minutes tidying it up, and out it goes. That's probably how I use it. But I'll shut up now and let you do the demo. No, I might interrupt you a few times. Actually, I'm feeling like that today.
Okay, that sounds fine. That sounds good to me. Excuse me while I cough. Let me just mute this microphone for a second.
Yeah, I've got a cough. It's that time of year, isn't it?
It is. I've had winter sickness recently and various flus and things.
Yeah, I wasn't very well last week either.
We both had a few technical problems as well.
Well, that's the hilarious thing. I mean, physically I wasn't feeling very well. I was completely zonked and out of it. And my ongoing internet connection problems. I lost my connection totally last week. And you had problems with your graphics card as well, didn't you?
Yes,
so
I couldn't see anything.
So sometimes, the universe says, no, it's
Take
not
a
going to
break.
happen. Yeah. So,
It's the universe's way of saying get lost,
yeah.
I think. All right, let's see. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about health now because we've just been discussing it. So I've got various health blogs. So here we go. So I'm switching the remote microphone on. Well, comma, we are now well and truly in the winter season, full stop, new paragraph. For most of us, comma, the sad fact is that winter brings a host of diseases and unpleasant illnesses, full stop. I have just had a bout of flu myself, and I can say that it's not much fun, full stop. So an important question at this time of year is how to protect yourself from things such as flu, full stop, new paragraph. What I will attempt to do in this blog post is give you some simple tips that you can follow to have a healthy and happy winter, exclamation mark, new paragraph.
Please, sir.
Let me mute the microphone, go ahead.
Okay. What I'm thinking is it might be an idea for you to flip between screen share and yourself,
Okay.
actually dictating into your
Yeah. Good idea.
so that people can see that it really is all live. And
Yeah, okay. Let me do that.
Just
that's
flip
me.
every so often.
Yeah, that's a little awkward with this, but anyway. So what I'm doing, there's a button here. When I hit it, the microphone goes on. This is on my home wireless network, so I could be in a different room. I don't have to be near the computer, but for obvious reasons, I want to see what's coming on. The other thing I can do, there's another application which is free, is I can record this and then have Dragon do it as transcription all in one go. So there's a couple of different ways to do it, but I think seeing it live is quite good. So let's just get, what did we say? Healthy and happy winter. And I've done the paragraph. The first thing, which is really basic, is simply to wash your hands frequently, full stop. It may sound like something that is obvious, comma, but the truth is that many people forget to do it, exclamation mark, and even more people don't do it as a matter of course, full stop. In fact, if you were to go into any supermarket and watch people coming out of the public toilets, you would be amazed at how many of them do not wash their hands under any circumstance, full stop. Yes, comma, I know that is a gross subject, comma, but the truth is it happens, full stop, new paragraph. So, comma, a simple solution is to wash your hands frequently, full stop. That helps to prevent the transmission of germs, both from others to you and from you to others, full stop. Let me just switch.
Do you know what you say? You're off now, it stopped, has it? That's great, isn't it?
I don't know how many words we've got already, but that's probably 60% of a blog post.
Easily. And the thing is, I mean, the actual topic as well, my wife and I are such sticklers for washing hands and, you know, just general cleanliness. Okay, the house is a bit of a tip sometimes. We've got 3 kids, you know, everything gets dumped everywhere sometimes. But when it comes down to clean, my wife always washes the salad. You know, so if she buys pre-packed salad from the supermarket, wash it. You know, there's that scare, I think, either earlier this year or last year, where there was some salad being imported from another country.
Oh, with E. coli.
That's right.
Yes, yes, I remember.
But you know, we generally buy fresh salad and, you know, prepare it all ourselves. We don't buy packets. But when those few occasions when, you know, we forgot we need some salad and we've gone to the local grocery store and all they've got is this pre-packed stuff, then we wash it all our meat we wash. And, you know, my wife says, I see programs on the TV, sorry if I'm rambling a bit now. No. She says, I see cookery programs on the TV, she said, and they don't wash the meat. She says they take it straight out of the package. She says, I'm not going to name any names because, you know, don't want to get done, but no. She says they take it straight out of the packet and then boom, it's in the pan and away they go. She says they don't bother washing it. She said, I always wash everything, and that's what we're like. So washing hands is a big thing in our house, and we're constantly telling the kids. Actually, we don't have to constantly tell them now that we've brainwashed them. Finally, even on the back of our toilet door, my wife had stuck a sign with a smile, you know, that she'd done herself smiley face, and now please wash your hands.
Oh, right.
This was intended for the kids' friends who came to the house, but, you know, we just left it there. It's there. So, you know, washing hands is so easy to do, and I like having nice, fresh, clean hands. I don't like having sticky, yicky
No, not
hands. I
nice,
never
is it?
have done.
No.
But so that's a really good topic that you've picked on there, and obviously it's something that's lit me up. So I'm like, oh yeah, I totally agree with that.
Well, I'm
So
going to show you something now. We're talking about content creation. You've just told me various things. What I want you to do now is watch as I incorporate that into this using Dragon NaturallySpeaking, because
Cool.
in terms of content creation, and I'll show you something else in a few minutes, but in terms of content creation, it's all around us. You have a chat with somebody, they tell you things. Let me actually do this.
Really good point, Amin.
And I'm going to show you me talking, and then I'll show you the actual text in a moment. So the button again. Let me just give myself a second to think about this. In fact, I am reminded of a story that a friend told me the other day, full stop. His children are now well trained in washing their hands, ! However, when they were younger, one of the things his wife did was to make a smiley face and put it on the back of the toilet door with the instruction, now please wash your hands, ! She did that, apparently for the friends of her children, just in case, ! New paragraph. The point that my friend made was a good one, that there are various health risks even in washed salad in the supermarkets, full stop. His wife actually washes the salad herself when she gets it home, just to make sure, full stop. New paragraph. As a matter of fact, my friend also told me that he detests the feeling of lack of cleanliness on his hands, and that he enjoys the feeling of having clean hands after he's washed them, full stop. I understand that feeling myself, because if I have touched something dirty, I feel contaminated until I have been able to wash my hands properly, full stop. New paragraph. No, I am not a germ freak, but I am aware of how easy germs are transmitted. Correct, easy. Spell that. E-A-S-I-L-Y. Choose one. Full stop. New paragraph. The next thing that you can do is simply to use tissues or a clean handkerchief if you are sneezing, full stop. Yes, another gross fact, but the truth is many people are dirty, and if you want to catch their germs, just stand near them as they sneeze all over you, ! New paragraph. The final tip I would give you, and it is more of a joke, is avoid human contact throughout the entire winter, ! Microphone off. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just show you that, because you can
that
see
is
the text.
fantastic, isn't it? That is just...
Now, one thing I didn't explain while I was doing it, but I actually said, I dictated wrong. I said, I am aware of how easy germs are transmitted. That's wrong. It should be easily.
Yeah.
So I corrected it by voice. I corrected my own mistake by voice. Now, how cool is that?
That is very cool.
I mean, that's great. Now, that's an entire blog post.
Is it difficult to learn these voice commands, these skills? Do you, what's your mind doing when you were running through that?
For me now, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to say. The commas and full stops and periods and paragraphs and so on. You get used to it pretty quickly, I think, but it's strange at first. It is strange at first. It does have an automatic punctuation system, which is lousy. So, I don't use it because it really puts things in the wrong place. It automatically assumes a pause is a comma, but you may be thinking about what to say next.
Yeah.
So it's not very good from my point of view. But I think the other thing as well is if you give yourself a few seconds to think about what you want to say before you say it, as you saw me do, when I was about to switch, I said, let me just think about that for a second. And then I spoke.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So there's nothing wrong with pausing, have a think, and then speaking. But as far as the punctuation is concerned, if you want to turn it off and just add it later, then you can do. I'm just trying to see...
I'm pretty sure I know how I'd use that. I would just talk, probably like you've done now, without thinking too hard about it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when I'd finished, I'd just go through the document and edit bits in and out as
I mean, we stopped and didn't we, and talked, and it was only a
Yeah.
5-minute process, really, or 5 or 10
Yeah.
minutes in total. But the actual article was probably 5 minutes, and I've just checked 478 words,
Wow.
and that's a full blog post. In fact, in some
Yeah.
cases, that's 2 blog posts.
Yes.
Now, there's one other thing I wanted to show you, which I think is quite fun when I can do this. Okay, let me find. Oh, where are we? What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this straight onto a blog, which is, you don't have to do it into WordPad. Let me show you going straight onto a blog. Where are we? Here we go. So I've got a test website that I use, and this is the one showing now. Yep, that's coming. So I'm going to add a new post. Let me get my microphone ready. Okay, because I've got a small window, it's a little bit scruffy, but anyway. So
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'm moving my mouse cursor then to show you. In the sidebar, the admin sidebar on the left, at the bottom you've got collapse menu.
Which one?
In the admin sidebar on the left.
Oh yeah.
At the bottom you've got collapse menu.
Oh, for yeah.
Yeah. So that'll give you a little bit more room.
So let me think. We'll stick to health, but what I'm going to do now, let me just make sure I've got this right. Now, I'm not going to plagiarize anything. I am going to look at something for inspiration. So I'm being serious about that. So health.
Yeah. We all do that, don't we? Blimey.
Well, that's what everybody does. So here's a good one. Is TV cookery making you fat?
Nigel.
There's another one. MRSA. Okay. Alcoholism. Exercise helps. Okay. Fish is good for you. Okay, let's see. Oh, look at this one. Patients are too embarrassed to ask doctors if they wash their hands. Now,
hang on a minute. Hang on. I've got to ask the question now.
Yeah.
Did you know that was there?
No.
Before you started?
No, because we were talking about being ill last week, and that reminded me that I had
of course
a little bit of sickness. I don't think it was the norovirus, which is the proper winter one. But
right.
But I think it was food poisoning, to be honest.
So anybody watching this now, right? This really is, as we were saying at the beginning, that wasn't all some elaborate plan to make this,
I wish I was that clever. But that's great.
This is just total coincidence.
Wow.
But patients are too embarrassed to ask doctors if they wash their hands.
Oh, hang on a second. Am I allowed to show that? I'm not sure. Let me just switch to you. Okay. For copyright reasons, I don't know if I can put too much of that on, so I'm keeping off that page.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to read it, and I'll sort of summarize it while we talk. But it's saying that people are too embarrassed to ask a doctor if they've washed their hands. Even if they see the healthcare worker forget to do it. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So even if they know, excuse me, even if they know that somebody hasn't washed their hands, they're too scared to say it. They've done research. This is American research, which is interesting. So I wonder what the figures would be in the UK, probably the same. Everybody agrees that healthcare workers should be washing their hands. Okay. And wow, the study looked at people who were most at risk. So the people who were most at risk were still too scared. Wow. And it tells you how to wash your hands, which is the simple things that you would imagine, such as using soap. Can you believe that? Wow. Okay. Now the numbers are, wow. Okay, I'm going to do this now. So let me, I'll switch back to me. So that we can, excuse me.
Actually, before you go on,
go ahead.
You've raised an interesting thing there about copyright, because I don't know what YouTube are going to do with this now, because there was one of my sons watches a YouTube live stream, and what they'd done was they'd obviously tuned into BBC World Services or something during their live stream.
Yeah.
And of course that got saved out as the video. And the video was there for a short time, and then it got removed, and the thing said you can't do that because the copyright holders, BBC World Services, don't allow clips of theirs to be included. So he'd lost his entire 2-hour live stream, and He couldn't get it. I mean, it had gone. YouTube were recording it, and YouTube took it down. And I suspect that was an automated thing. Now, I wouldn't have thought that was the Daily Mail site, wasn't it?
It is. And there is a fair usage for quotation.
Yeah,
and so on.
I wouldn't have thought that the Daily Mail would be too bothered anyway, because we're actually promoting the Daily Mail site with this, aren't we? So
the other thing we can do, when the recording is finished, we can take it down, we can download it, delete it from the channel, YouTube, and then I can just overlay something to prevent that copyright issue.
Well, we'll get on that pretty smartish, just in case YouTube.
So as soon as it's recorded, I think that would be best. But it shows that there's information. Now, I'm not going to plagiarize it. I'm not even looking at that now. But I've read the article, and there are certain key points that are relevant. The first is this was a US study. The second is that it was patients at risk. It wasn't the general patient population. It was patients at risk. The third point is that virtually none of them, I think it was about 15%, ever asked a healthcare professional to wash their hands. Most of them, or 95%, thought they should, so that fear stopped them. So there's several different points. But,
sorry, I didn't pick up on. Was it a UK study or a US study?
In Wisconsin.
So see, I can believe. I'm quite surprised really, but I can believe that in the UK, because we're all a little bit reserved, aren't we? And we don't like to kick up a fuss. I mean, that's, you know, if I have to complain, I feel so bad about complaining. I always try to be nice to the people, because I don't want them to get upset at me, because, you know, people mirror, you know, what they see in front of them, don't they?
Yeah.
So I'm wringing my hands now at the thought of complaining. I'm going like this. You know, it's crazy, isn't it? So yeah, I can believe that. But the US as well, that's quite a surprise to me, that is.
We're getting some feedback, which I'm going to incorporate. So we've got some viewers and the feedback. Let me just read it for you, which is great. And you'll see how I incorporate this now straight into a blog post. In the States, they mentioned that bank tellers have to wash their hands frequently because money is dirty.
Yeah.
But actually, because they wash their hands so frequently, they tend to have less illness. Now wait till I incorporate this. Wait till you see this. This is fantastic. Correct hand washing is not. Let me just switch to me 1 second.
Yeah.
Correct hand washing is not. It's at least 30 seconds and get some friction in there. And they even suggest timing yourself with a little song which you sing twice. So now let's have a look at this. I like that. So I'll come back to comments in a moment if anybody has any, but let me just switch to this now.
You know what we need now, don't you? That what would really make that blog post really well, if you spent a little time thinking up a little song that you could, you know, a little jingle about washing your hands.
I'm going to do that live.
Okay.
That sounds like fun. Let's do that live. Okay. Okay. Let me do this now. So you can see the thing. So I'm doing the title first. And I'm trying to remember what commands are for moving into the body of the text, which I think is press tab. But anyway, if I get it wrong, I'll use the mouse. Okay, so I've got to think of a title now. So it just takes me a couple of seconds. Surprising professional hygiene. Press tab. Most of us tend to regard professionals with some degree of respect, full stop. Particularly in the field of healthcare, we believe that professionals are there with our best interests in mind. Full stop. New paragraph. A recent study, done in Wisconsin, shows that even patients who are most at risk are afraid to question the hygiene practices of their healthcare professionals. Full stop. In fact, it seems that something like 15% of people only have ever asked a healthcare professional to wash their hands, even though something like 95% of patients believe that they need to. Full stop. New paragraph. That is a huge disparity, and it means that even vulnerable people are too afraid to ask the so-called professional to be clean when giving them treatment. Full stop. What is even worse is that fear stops them doing it even when they have seen the healthcare professional forget to wash their hands. Full stop. Press enter. Now, comma, from what I have learned from a friend in the States, bank tellers are taught to wash their hands frequently because money carries so many germs. Full stop. As a result, full stop. Scratch that. Full stop. Delete full stop. Are taught to wash their hands frequently because money carries so many germs. Full stop. As a result, the bank tellers have less illness than average. Full stop. I do not know whether that is a scientifically proven fact, comma, but the simple act of washing your hands frequently is sufficient to avoid catching many of the diseases that are transmitted from one person to another. Full stop. Press enter. Apparently, one of the ways to make sure that you wash your hands for long enough is to sing a ditty twice to time yourself! 30 seconds of vigorous washing, comma, at least, comma, is what is recommended. And for fun, I am going to make up a ditty that I can use for timing myself in the future! Press enter. I should warn anybody reading and listening that I am no songsmith! Press enter. Wash my hands, comma, wash my hands. Press enter. Delete, press enter. Press enter. Wash them well, comma, wash them well. Press enter. Use the soap, comma, hot water too. Press enter. Remove the germs and all the dirt too. Okay, I'm going to switch back to me because that was a rubbish ditty, but it was quite fun. Now there were a couple of mistakes in there, as you can see. I was saying new paragraph, and with a WordPress blog, you have to say press enter. Yeah. So I'm getting, you can see here double spacing, but I could take that out. It's fairly quick. And there was a mistake at the very beginning when I said most people regard professionals, and it's come as temporary regard. Again, I could have voice corrected that, but you can see that this is pretty much a full blog post, and that's done from. Let me switch back to me. That's done from an iPhone. Now, because of the way Dragon works, it's always more accurate if you use the Dragon, what they call the Dragon pad, which is this one. So that's the one I used originally. Yeah. Which is this thing, and it's more accurate for correction and for the initial recognition. So if you want the absolute accuracy, use this, and then you can copy and paste. But if you wanted to, you can go straight into a blog, and you can do this into Word as well. So you can dictate into Word or anything that will take text. In fact, Skype. You can do it for Skype.
Yes, I know that you were doing that earlier. You know, you were chatting away with me, and then all of in text, and then all of a sudden.
I mean, I wouldn't go out and buy an iPhone especially to do this, but you know, a lot of people do have iPhones, iPods, and so on. And if you have, I think at the moment, version 11.5 of Dragon that's the previous version, which still does this. I think that's about $68. That's about £68. It's quite cheap. The latest version, 12, which has a lot more accuracy, is I think about 120. But in terms of what you can do with it, I mean, it's incredible, you know. And everybody who says I can't create content, mainly because they don't want to type for 2 hours. You know, if we can all speak for 10 minutes, no problem. Anybody
on virtually anything.
I mean, we can't talk for less than 2 hours, can we, Frank?
Well, it is difficult. We're cutting it short today, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of creating something, I'm just checking if we've got any comments. Then a 5 to 10 minute talk once a day, which will create a blog post for you, or two in some cases. If I said to somebody, can you create 700 articles easily? Most people, I think, would say no.
Yeah.
But if I show them how to do it easily like that, and all you do is talk for 5 minutes, you can use inspiration from, well, I've had comments here. We've had some inspiration from that. You were talking about your wife's sign. That gave me some inspiration for some extra content. I had a look at a website with health information, and that was a particularly fascinating one. I mean, actually, I think in reality I probably would do a lot more on that blog post. I was doing it a little bit rushed, actually. I think it could have been a lot better, but even so, I'm 90% there.
You've got the basics that you can just nip in and edit the
tweaking,
text
and I think most people would find it easier to tweak something that's already there than start from scratch. But if you can just speak it, how fantastic. In the old days, bosses used to have a secretary who'd come in, take the shorthand dictation, and it would save him having to type.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays you could use this, and there is another application as well, which is a voice recorder. Let me just see if I can show you. And with this one, it will actually record the dictation, and then I can send it to Dragon later for transcription.
Cool.
So it's, in terms of content creation, it doesn't have to be as hard as some people think. There is a cost.
When your application on the iPhone is connecting to it, is it doing it across the net?
No, it's actually doing it on my local Wi-Fi network.
Oh, right,
my home
okay.
router,
So, yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
And I've just got a comment that, right, so they've also got an application for Android phones now.
Okay.
Which means your Kindle.
Yeah, should work
as well.
Yeah, it's got a mic and a camera and so on in it.
Which is...
I love my Kindle, by the way.
I know, you were saying.
I really do. I was thrilled with it, and then I saw a negative review of it on a techie site, and I thought about it, and I saw all the negative comments, and I thought about it. I thought, now, guys, you're not seeing who the market is for the Kindle. There are people like me who like to read, and who also might want to do a bit of browsing sitting on the sofa, or check an email account or two, or that kind of thing. And they were trying to compare it to an iPad or an Android tablet, mostly Android tablets.
Yeah.
And they were saying, well, it's far better just to get something like the Google Nexus 7 or whatever it is. A little bit more money than the Kindle, but it's open. You can do a lot more within blah 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 blah. I thought, well, no, I've never used raw Android on a tablet, so I don't have that experience. But the more I thought of it, and I thought, no, the Kindle does what I want it to do. I've got access to a ton of free books. I can load it up with my own books using a bit of software called Calibre or Calibre, which will convert PDFs I've got into Kindle format and so on. I found a little app called that I use all the time now. I'm sorry, I know it's turning into an advert for the Kindle, but what is it? ES File Manager, something like that, I think it's called.
Well, what I want to say to anybody who's listening, whether now or on the replay, is that you're providing them with content for a review of a product that they can promote as an affiliate.
Yeah.
And the things you're saying are factors which are important to the potential marketplace.
Yeah.
So please keep talking.
Okay. Well, I found that with my Kindle, this isn't an official Kindle case, by the way. I bought this for £7 on eBay. It's about $12.
Gosh, that looks nice.
It is. It's really nice. It came with a little stylus thing as well with it too. You can see when you open the thing, it's got a magnet in there, and it's off now.
Oh, the clever.
As I open it, it turns itself on. Okay,
Right,
you get a different ad until you swipe it open. There's ES File Explorer there. But that little app, people who know about it are going to go, yeah, you're not saying anything new. But it was new to me, and that little app, you've got quite a lot of settings in there, and one of them is you can turn the Kindle into an FTP server on your LAN, and that's how I transfer documents and video to it now. So I've got some books of my own that I've converted to I think it's Mobi format, and then I fire up the FTP server on this. I don't know whether it's worth even trying to show this, but where do you go? Down here into the settings, and then so down at the bottom here, you've got where is it? Remote settings, access phone. It says with FTP server because it assumes it's a phone. Well, you just go in there, tick that box. It's picked itself up an IP off my wireless network 192.168.1.102 and given it a port number. I then fire up FileZilla on my PC, and I get full access to. Let's just go back. I then get full access to the Kindle file structure or Android file structure. It would be on Android machine because you can get the same app on Android machines as well.
Yeah.
So then, and I'm happy with FTP because it's really cool. You know, you can queue things up, and it'll just if you plug it into the USB, you can't see how much of the file has transferred easily because certainly with my setup, I don't know why, but I didn't get a drive letter. It just showed up as a device in Explorer at the bottom. So I don't know quite what. I've tried all sorts of things to try and get it to show up as a letter, but it won't. But when you're copying files, you can't tell how much of the file it's taking, how long it's going to take. But by FTP, you know exactly how long it's going to take. So I can plug this in. I don't have to plug it into my PC. I can go and plug it into the charger that I've got across the other side of the room. Fire up the FTP server on this. Then can sit down on a PC here, connect to the FTP server on there, and transfer all the documents, videos, whatever I want, music, whatever I want, directly to the device. Okay.
That that means theoretically, because there must be on the Kindle, there must be some kind of slideshow facility, is there, for your images?
There probably is. It's probably an app. I haven't put any photos on. I know that sounds like, why haven't you done that, Frank? But I've been reading books because that's why I bought it.
Let me just suggest something to you then. Suppose you use that as a glorified photo frame.
Yeah.
With your slideshow. And I don't know, you leave somebody behind at home while you go on a business trip or whatever, or whatever it might be, you know. That means you could actually set up port forwarding from your home router, so that you could FTP into that Kindle from anywhere in the world. And if you were taking images, say you had a lifetime trip to Hong Kong or Japan or Australia or wherever, you could actually be uploading them live.
Yeah, brilliant you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But not just that, but imagine this. Think about this now, because this would have occurred to me. This would have happened to me a few weeks ago when I went to a family wedding. If you have a phone, a suitable phone, and an Wi-Fi card or something like that, I could have uploaded the wedding photos immediately via FTP if my sister had had a Kindle.
Yeah.
There must be something similar for the iPad, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's got to be.
And I think there will be. 'Cause I know they have the iStream or the iCloud. So, but that means you could literally update a device from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Not just from your home network, because you can do this port forwarding and so on. And
that's right. That's a really good point, that is, because there is bound to be an app. I haven't looked for one, but I will now. There's bound to be an app that does a slideshow, and you can say, "Don't turn the Kindle off," because it'll go in. It's quite efficient at battery management, and eventually it will go into standby mode, I guess.
Lost your sound. Is that me? Just 1 second.
I can hear me.
Oh, I can hear you now. Keep knocking. I've got on this new headset I've got a control panel here.
And you just knock it off.
I keep knocking the volume control, so I've got it in the wrong place. So
do you know what? Mine's the same.
I'll put it there now.
If I don't have it in it's a great headset, but if I don't have it in just the right place, I get a load of, every time I tap it, I get pops and crackles.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I'm going to put a bit of sellotape over that so that it can't get touched, because it's got a little dimple in it. So if I put a bit of sellotape over it, oh God, you know, sorry.
Registered trademark.
Yeah, that's right. Bit of sellotape.
Other sticky back plastics are available.
Yeah.
Adhesive back tape.
Yeah, anything you like, really. Or a bit of blue tack would probably do. Anyway.
Yes. Well, in my case, I've just moved it so it's pointing away from me now.
Yes. So yeah, you're right. There must be a slideshow app for the Kindle in the App Store somewhere. You must be able to say, don't turn off. So if I left it propped up on the shelf, because you could do that, with that. Actually, there's a little thing on here you can tuck it into. So I could leave it on the shelf like that. So I've got, it is rotating. I thought I'd locked it. So leave it on the shelf like that, with the wire plugged into it, my charger plugged into it, and then you're quite right. I could send FTP images to the folder, and they'd just start to appear in the what's it. So that would be really. I mean, I know it's a geeky thing, but that would be really cool, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you think about all the family occasions that come up. That wedding that we did, I took the photos for a cousin, and it's easy enough to email them later, but live for somebody who was, my sister's in the States, and if she could have sort of joined in live by watching, that would have been very nice for her.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing them an hour later is not really a big deal, but there is something about seeing things at the time they're occurring.
That's right, yeah. I mean, that's why people are right now, hopefully there's some people right now watching this, because it is nice to be able to see things as they're happening.
So in terms of content creation then, because we've just been talking about the Kindle, what I would like to emphasize to anybody who's listening or watching the replay, you've just been given a ton of content that you can use. I mean, really, you can take content from anywhere. And what you've heard is directly from a customer, somebody who's spent money on a Kindle, and he's told you why he spent money on a Kindle and why he thinks it's superb. Well, Frank's not the only one. There's going to be lots of other people who have those same views. And if you were to do a review, let's say you do physical product affiliate reviews, it's good to know what people are interested in so that you can talk to them in a way that makes sense to them, because they're more likely to buy if you do that.
Yeah.
If you give them the information that lights them up and think, oh, that's cool, they're more likely to hit the button that says buy. And you see that in every advert. There's certain trigger points that will make somebody want to buy something. And what you've just had there was 5 or 10 minutes of all the trigger points that make one person buy the Kindle.
Yeah.
And other people will buy it for the same kind of reasons. And you've gone from the non-geeky side, which is interesting. You were saying you just want to be able to read a book and so on.
Yeah, I know.
So the iPad does other things, but I want to read a book. And then we've gone on to the geeky side. So you could even split that into 2 separate reviews,
Yeah.
It's ideal for this kind of thing. But if you're a little bit more techie or geeky or whatever, you can even do this, which is really clever. And then you hit 2 different markets at once, so you've got content there. I hope somebody actually takes that information and uses it for a review. If you do, please tell us and let us know, because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
We do like it when people take action. Oh, by the way, on the follow-up that we had a couple of weeks ago, Jan and Anita, I made them publicly commit to some timescales.
You're evil.
I know, but Anita... I'm working with Anita tomorrow for her website. She's going to start selling, so probably within a day or 2. And that means she's hitting the middle of November. She said mid to end of November. So she's going to hit the middle, really. And then Jan said the end of November, so she's going to get away scot-free for another week or 2. And then we'll follow up with Jan and see how she's got on. But I know she's been doing things. But so those 2 particularly publicly given deadlines, they seem to be on target anyway, which is quite nice. So we'll do follow-ups at the end of the month.
You are dreadful.
Well, one thing that's very actually, yeah, you're right. But you know what? You can learn and learn all day, but at some point you've got to get it wrong and then fix. And I think I made the point in that actual multi-hangout we did. I don't want to get into a plane where the pilot has read every book under the sun but never been in a plane before.
Yeah.
I want him to go out and make his mistakes before I get on his plane.
Yeah.
So you can read the book 100 times, you can listen to somebody 100 times, and then the first time you do it, you'll do it wrong. I mean, that's human nature. A long time ago, I used to be a driving instructor, and I'd tell people how to do things, and you'd explain things nice and easy and simple for them. And then they'd do it wrong, because it takes time physically to learn certain skills. Even if you know it here, you have to practice them. I could learn how to play the best game of golf ever from a book, and then put me on a golf course, and you'll see that, I'm not making much money this year on the pro golf circuit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at some point you have to do, and we both know that people are very good at finding ways not to do.
Yep.
You know, there's always a reason. I'm not quite perfect yet. I just need to learn one other thing, and I still do that too. But I think sometimes having an external influence making you do it can be easier than having the willpower to do it. So in that sense, although it was a little bit cruel to force them, and particularly publicly, I think it's beneficial, because at the end of it, when they've done something, they'll know they can, which is always a confidence builder. You know, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's easier to do. I managed to finish it. It's all kind of exciting when you get to that stage. And I think as well, there's confidence in knowing that you do not have to be perfect and you do not have to learn everything.
No,
and
that's
it's the same with this content creation, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's right. And I mean, in the whole thing about when you do stuff, you know, you can read about, you know, if you do this, then this, and quite often you don't understand why, because the explanation isn't there. I've found, you know, even in places where the explanation, you know, I read stuff and I go, why? And the reason I bring that up is because I've got an example. I don't want to go into details about it because it's still very raw with me, but I will share this, you know, at a later date, perhaps in the new year but I've just made a mistake that is going to cost me about $2,000, and I mean real money. I don't mean lost earnings or anything like that. I mean, I'm actually going to go and pay out about $2,000. But I've learned an incredible lesson. I've learned a $2,000 lesson, okay, in how not to do a particular thing again. And I will share the circumstances, but right now it is all a little bit, you know. I'm thinking that would have paid for Christmas and, you know, and the whole of December, and you know, and I've now got to pay this money out instead on something else that I shouldn't have done. I may be insured. I've got to go and check my insurance. I may be insured, but the mistake was mine. And we all make mistakes, like I say. And the worst thing is, and I think this comes back. I read a story a few years ago about the president of a company was asked why he didn't fire one of his directors for making a mistake that cost the company £750,000, and he said, well, that guy has just had £750,000 worth of training, and he's never going to do that again. Well, yeah, exactly. and that's the same situation with me. I just had like an unwanted $2,000 worth of training, and I'm never going to make that mistake again.
Well, over a lifetime, I mean, you will get value from it. At the time, it's painful, but so can a winter flu inoculation can be painful as it goes in, I guess.
Got to go and have
there's a benefit of the term, you know. So yeah, it's something everybody would like to avoid, but the reality is, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a complete beginner. You can be an expert. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, that's right.
And there shouldn't be a reason not to do things. And if your content, so we're talking about content creation. If you've well, no, it's the same thing, isn't it? But if your content isn't perfect, so what? Put some up there.
That's right.
And you can change it later. If you put a content that isn't really superb, it's still better than none at all. And you can change it. You know, that's the. Oh, I forgot. Okay, you talk, Frank. Let me just. No, sorry.
It couldn't have happened while I was just having my little monologue there, could it? No, it had to happen this then. Right. Okay. Well, yeah, goodness knows what he's talking about now because he's muted us. Oh, no, I'll call you back. There, we just saw that happen. And here he is.
Now, what did we say? That wasn't planned. There's a mistake. I forgot to turn this off. That's my sister in the States, actually. Just ringing to make sure what I'm going over to the States next week for Thanksgiving. And I'm meeting somebody that I've been doing some private mentoring with. So there'll be some updates, and we'll be doing our hangout next week. Frank will still be in the UK, I think, so it'll be 12:30 for him, but it'll be 7:30 in the morning for me, which will be quite interesting. So we'll see how that works out. That might be, you know.
And it's getting
but
close
I'll be using
now.
a different machine. there, so a different webcam and so on. So it will be quite interesting to see how it works with different settings and so on. I'm not taking this thing; it's too bulky, really. I'll use a I've got a small headset that I may use, and so on. So so in terms of content, you can change it. I think I hear so many people saying they want things to be perfect.
And it comes from anywhere, doesn't it? And I always think my wife is doing. She's at college at the moment doing not right now, but she was there last night. She's doing. She's an NVQ assessor. I can't even think what NVQ stands for now. Non-vocational qualification. Yeah, it's a thing in the UK. I don't know if it's done in the US as well and Australia, whatever. But she's doing. She's an NVQ assessor, so she goes to people and assesses their work and gets them on track to completing their NVQs. And she's doing a brush-up course in English, which it's a crash course, 14 weeks, and it's the equivalent of a GCSE in English, something like that, which is sort of a basic qualification that kids come out of schools from here in the UK. So she's doing this course, and some of the things that she's been taught as part of this English course are things like you should not say shouldn't when you're writing things unless you're quoting someone. I said, that's nonsense, isn't it? She said, yeah, but she's taken it to heart, and I've caught her writing things. I said, no, come on, write in your own tone of voice. People are reading what they're reading stuff that you're outputting. It doesn't matter that to get through this course, you have to do things in that particular way. For the exam, you have to do it. It's like when taking a driving test, you have to do things exactly right. But as soon as you pass your driving test, you don't do this with the steering wheel anymore. You do this, don't you?
Most people do.
Everybody does. Well, I think everybody does.
Apart from me,
apart from me too. Yeah, I don't do that. So, and I'm saying to her, I said, yeah, but that's okay for school sort of thing, but in the real world, you should be using your conversational voice. That's what people want to hear, especially if that they know you, they can see your face and all the rest of it on your blog, which is one of the little things that you should do. You should always have a picture of yourself on your blog. I'm sure you know that.
Barry's got to leave because he's got to go to work. Thanks for joining us, Barry.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Barry.
Hope to see you next week, and we'll.
Yeah, we are cutting off in 5 minutes anyway.
But thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm saying to choose the conversational style. That's what people want. It doesn't matter what the formal English. We're not dealing with formal English. And when you're writing your content, I always think it's best to do it in a more conversational style. And if you can, put a bit of humour in there as well.
I agree. And you know what? The strange thing is, most of the communication we have is verbal, in reality, these days in particular. And nobody speaks in a formal way like that. Even in a lecture, a professor won't speak that way, not totally anyway. There may be certain points where he's got to give specifics, but most of the time we'll be speaking colloquially. And in terms of clarity of communication and so on, it's what people are used to, therefore they're more likely to understand what you're saying if you speak in that kind of conversational way. By the way, talking of content, I've just got another piece of content here which could create a whole series of articles. So we've got a comment, vaccines, I mentioned about the flu vaccine, are controversial, which I knew anyway, because of the mercury used to stabilize the vaccine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, there are other issues as well, actually, about the flu vaccine, and you can get into all kinds of conspiracy theories about them. But that's a single sentence, 3, 6, 9, 12 words, and I could make 5 articles out of that right now, just from things I already know, without doing any research. And that's content which somebody has mentioned as a comment here, which could create virtually an entire blog. I mean, a blog can be as few as 10 posts, 10 articles. It's not a tremendous blog, but it'd certainly get you going. Vaccines, and this is not just flu vaccines, but vaccines generally, they're controversial. So that raises one point, because of mercury. Okay, so that raises another scientific issue. What is mercury? And some people may not know it's a metal and it's liquid and so on. And then you can talk about why why the old name is quicksilver, for example, and things like that. It's used to stabilize the vaccine. So then that raises questions of why do you need to stabilize the vaccine? Is the vaccine that weak, and so on? And what's the side effect? And why does a stabilizing factor make the whole thing potentially more toxic? So there's all kinds of things from that, and that's a little comment which I know the person who mentioned it did it as a throwaway comment, just for commenting, but didn't offer it as the basis of new posts. But that one thing could create, well, certainly at least 4 or 5 good posts that deal with that question in a substantial way. And then you think about, we're talking about flu vaccines earlier, and then there's this question of, is it controversial, is it dangerous, and so on. You can link out to other research on that, and you could probably even link out to an affiliate program if you wanted to, which raises this question even further, and alternative health solutions. So, for example, one which is, this is a strange one, colloidal silver, which is silver in suspension, is tremendously beneficial for your health. Lots of people claim. That's one metal that's good for you in the right quantities. But mercury isn't. So why is one good for you and another isn't? So that's another half a dozen articles. And I know for a fact there are plenty of affiliate programs on natural health products, such as the colloidal silver and the various herbs and so on. I mean, already, as you can see from what we're talking about, that a 12-word sentence could create an entire website. Okay. Yes, there's a bit of work to do. I couldn't do it in 5 minutes. If I'm putting 20 posts on there, it would take me a little while, even with Dragon Dictate. But content is all around you. So, we've got several bits of content that you've mentioned, Kindle and so on, and washing hands and the smiley face and what have you. We've got the thing that we looked at on the Daily Mail. We've got comments here. And all of them are linked because we've been talking around a particular topic of health. And, if you're talking to your friends or family or whatever, they'll say things. And if you're listening to what people are saying, that's a springboard for your own content. I mean, that literally 12 words in that sentence. Yeah. And you can see from how long I've been talking now, that would generate tremendous amounts of material. Yeah. Tremendous amounts. In fact, I can't even think where it would stop, because each one of those would, do you know what I mean? You'd be going off it'd be fantastic.
Well, that's it, I mean, something you might say about that might then trigger me to say, like you just did, I didn't even know that small amounts of colloidal silver were good for you. I'd have said silver is another metal that you want to keep out of your system. Yeah. Mercury, because, I know that's a toxin. The hat makers, didn't they? They used to use
mercury. Well, they got it Mad Hatters, didn't they?
Mad Hatters, because it sent them blind and insane and all the rest of it.
Well, it was the fumes, actually, from the mercury. But do you know what? Silver, let me tell you something else. In India, they sometimes put sheet silver over the food as a luxury item. How's that? So that then leads on to regional cooking and why they would use that.
Yes. So they eat the silver?
Yes. Yeah. I know.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. So there you go. But actually, in the right quantities, it's very... it has antiseptic properties and other things. But then if you start from there, now we're talking about cookery, and we're talking about regional cookery and the health benefits of certain things. So, for example, the spices that you use in Indian cookery, and as a food lover, I know a lot about spices.
Not as a curry lover,
because I eat. But turmeric, for example, has medicinal properties. Garlic does. The turmeric has something called curcumins, which is the active ingredient, and garlic has certain oils which are the active ingredient, which is also what makes it smell very, very beneficial in terms of lowering blood pressure, for example. A long time ago, fortunately it's a long time ago, so I don't think it matters now, but I had to go for a blood pressure test for life insurance, and it was very high, and so the insurance would be high. So what I did was the night before I went for this early morning test, I just ate tons of raw garlic. Now the poor nurse who did it gosh, I mean, it must have been awful, but she took the blood pressure. Oh yeah, it's fine. Okay, so insurance is normal, no premiums added on. But it went went up again later. But it's actually very effective for that. It's not particularly pleasant, but it's effective. And so then you can think about the various regional cookeries and styles. So why do certain things, why are they combined in certain cultures and not others? And then you think about ecological aspects, such as certain things grow better in certain climates, and maybe if you're in that climate, a particular food is beneficial for you because it's part of the natural environment.
Yeah.
You know, we over here, one of the winter things that used to be a winter veg for us. I mean, I know now you can get things all the time, but a winter veg for us used to be swede. And you know, that's the only time you could get swede. It was very much a winter vegetable.
I remember.
And then you get into this whole seasonality thing, where if you eat food in season, how does that affect your health? So here we go. A couple more comments. This is content that we're being given.
Great.
Silver gel can sanitize your hands for 4 hours, and it doesn't matter how many dirty hands you touch afterwards. It sanitizes your hands until you wash it off.
Right, yeah, I was just going to say.
How's that?
Yeah, because I was just going to say, it probably puts a layer over your skin.
Yeah.
That
so you see, we started off by
kills
talking
any other bacterial germs.
So
it makes sense. Yeah.
All this came from, you were ill last week, I was ill last week, and that's a chance comment. And we've talked about, I don't know, at least half a dozen different types of topic. We could make 6 different websites out of this right now.
Yeah.
And some of the content has been offered to us by people watching, and some of it is from things we already know.
We should do a challenge, shouldn't we? Did you say you were doing a challenge or something
This week?
Yeah.
No, not a challenge.
Oh, right, okay. We should do a challenge for ourselves. A few years ago, I did I was mad. Now I look back on it, I was mad to attempt it, but and I failed, but I did okay. I did 7 products in 7 days.
Right.
Size, and my aim was to create 7 saleable products in 7 days. Now, that's what I told everybody I was going to do publicly, but then I took it a bit too far, because what I actually did was I created the websites and all the sign-up code and the payment buttons and all the rest of that stuff as well. And of course, it just takes a lot of time, and I couldn't do the product creation in a day and set up the website. I think I managed okay the first 2 days, but it had taken me all of my waking time during those days, and I was getting a bit tired.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So I think I actually created, in the 7 days, I think I actually created 4 products total, with the sales pages and so on then. And I think I also created another couple, but they were just the products. There's nothing else. And somebody pointed out to me on my blog, when I said, I failed, but it's good. It's a good failure, because I've got 4, 5, 6 new products that I didn't.
I failed. I've only got 6 products.
Yeah, that's right.
What a failure! What a failure! We should all have that failure.
Yeah, I created them all myself. Well, sorry, no, that's not true. I didn't. I used some PLR, but that was my challenge that I insanely gave myself. But yeah, we could do something like put up a blog in a day, and fill it with content, and set some posts up to schedule them up to go out in the future. Say 10 posts to go out in the future. I don't know when I could put aside that time at the moment to do that, but that's definitely something I think.
Well, I like challenges, and I think that's a good idea. Now, next week, because I'll be in the States, it'll be a little bit awkward. But let's say the week after, so then we'll be into December, won't we? Not quite.
I'll tell you what, could we make it January? Because...
No. No, here, listen, every week I have to throw something at you. But I'm going to throw it at me this week.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm taking your challenge. What we'll do, not next week, we'll do it the week after. Because I'll be back and fully jet-lagged and so on. Let's do a live content creation on the Hangout.
Okay, yeah.
I'll create at least 1 blog live.
Yeah.
And you can be talking in between and so on. And while I'm going to use this, so I'll dictate the.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll go for, I don't know, 10 posts.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll actually install the blog live. It'll be on a dummy site. I mean, for obvious reasons, I don't want to show people live sites that they can go and copy.
Well,
and mess about
what I was going to say was, why don't we do a bit of a domain name brainstorm and do the whole thing, so like somebody can see that we're doing it totally from scratch. There's no blog there, and
I'll tell you what.
And the day after, there is a blog there, and there's content on it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll do that, and
I'll have a think.
I'll
have a think as well.
I mean, if we can do 2, who knows? But I think one realistically. But if you can do an entire blog and populate it within an hour, and that's all with original content.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can get people to suggest the topic. That would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, you see, if we're talking about health, it's easy for me to do that because I know a lot about health, and I know quite a bit about food and so on, and various other things, and photography and what have you. But if we choose something new, so I've got to learn it quickly and research the information, that would be very interesting, because that's the kind of average position most people are in, where they don't know something. And then if you can actually create an entire blog inside 60 minutes, completely from scratch, knowing nothing about it, that would be very, very interesting, I think, as a challenge.
That's a real hard.
Yeah, but you know what? If we fail, or if I fail, and only get 4 posts, big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, the failure here is not even to try. The failure wouldn't be to do it and make it not so good. It would be the failure would be to not even start. Yeah. So I think that would be a really good challenge. So I'll take up your challenge.
Okay.
I know you but I'm going to throw it back at me, because I don't normally throw things at you. So I think it's only fair I take a turn now on that. But that would be quite interesting. And so if anybody's watching this now as the replay, if you want to suggest a topic, what we'll do is pick one that I don't know anything about, and then see how that goes. That would be a lot of fun.
I think what I'll do is, when we download this video off YouTube, when it's finished, I'll grab the last few minutes that we've been talking, and I'll send some emails out to my subscribers saying, this is what came out of the chat. If you've got any suggestions for a topic, then please go here to leave them. Okay, we can sort that out afterwards. Well,
in that case, if we're going to do that, I'll do the same. Why don't we give the blog away when it's made?
Yeah, brilliant.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only downside to it is that lots of people will know what the blog is.
Doesn't matter.
In fact, do you know what?
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't really, does it? But that'd be quite interesting. And then, we'll just pick somebody at random for that, because that will be quite fun. And of course, they can amend it as much as they like.
Yeah.
So we'll aim to get as many of these articles as we can. But if we do a 90-minute, which is what we normally go for, we should get 10 on there. I'm sure we'll get 10 articles.
Okay.
One way or another. I mean, while I'm talking, I'll have to mute the sound here, maybe, and you can, talk about other things and so on. Because I don't think it would be very interesting to watch somebody dictating for 60 minutes. In fairness.
Yeah.
Really, I think
a little bit of planning for a change.
Yeah, we will need to think it through. Yeah.
We can do this. Perhaps I can go through the registering the domain, setting it up on the server, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
While you're off camera, sort of thing, dictating the articles.
Yeah. If I dictate them into Dragon Pad, I can then. Yeah. In fact, that would be better than doing it straight into the blog anyway.
Yeah.
You get better accuracy.
Yeah, well, if you have that active on your screen, people can see the articles appearing as I work through some of the techie stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really cool, won't it?
Yeah, I think that'll be fun, apart from anything else. And it's a live challenge, so people can smile or laugh or be impressed, whichever.
Yeah.
Hopefully impressed. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So we're going to do that. Cool. Yeah, we'll challenge ourselves. I like that. Okay, we've run over time. What's new?
As usual, yeah.
And we haven't got any new comments, and I think that's fine. If anybody's got anything you want to say last minute, please do it now, and then we'll try to answer. But if not, we're going to close, I think, and then next week I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll be doing that next week, and the week after we'll do this.
The challenge. I really like the idea of that, and especially the giving it away at the end of it. Yeah, because that should really engage people, shouldn't it? We're going to do this, and at the end of it, we're going to give it away to somebody.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on how who we're going to give it away to?
Yeah, I think what I would like to do, I think what would make sense, is we need to. The honest reality is we need to get something out of this. Because everybody has to make something somewhere.
Okay.
So if people, as part of it, we need people to share us on Facebook or Twitter or something like that.
Yeah. To qualify. Yeah.
That would be
the
way.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And we can then we can validate it and so on and pick someone. Okay, so we'll talk and firm up some of the ideas. I think we will need to plan this properly, won't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody's saying anything else at the moment, so I think comments have dried up for now, or they can't think of anything to say. They're too busy thinking about all the content we've been talking about.
Yeah.
We've given them some ideas again to think about for next week. So, we're 15 minutes over.
15 minutes. That's pretty good. Yeah.
For us,
okay then. So, shall we do it then?
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.